Hello YouTube, we are back with another deck discussion video. There are going to be a few of these incoming over the next several days in place of our usual commentary, just because, as you can probably hear, myself and a few of our other members have been hit with COVID and other upper respiratory bugs, which have unfortunately put a damper on our plans to go to locals and get these matches recorded for you all. We should be better soon, but out of respect for our community, we're taking all the precautions to keep everybody safe, particularly in this period of time where, just respiratory bugs are just rampant right now. So that being said, hopefully these videos are enough to bridge the gap between commentary sets for you all and can give you guys something to watch while you wait for the next set to come out. As always, thank you guys for always tuning in. Those who have been tuning in for a long time and those who are just new to the channel, we appreciate every one of you and appreciate all the support the channel's been getting of late. We really wouldn't be here without you, so, a huge shout out to every single one tuning into our videos. We really, really do appreciate you all. And without further ado, let's hop right into this one. So today's video should be a quick one. We're going to be discussing BlackWargreymon, which I did do a previous deck discussion video on a couple of months ago. I'll link that video in the description down below for those who want to check it out. There, I'm going to be talking about how to pilot the deck, what you should be looking for early and mid game, what you want in your starting hand, and what you want to go for your win con. So really none of that's changed, so I'm not going to make another video going over that. You guys can check that out in the description down below. This video is really just going to focus on the updated pieces that we got in BT14, how I'm running the deck now, and where I think it sits in today's BT14 meta. As a deck, I think BlackWargreymon is always going to be around, so players who are going to be playing in locals, regionals, whatever, expect to see it just because it is still a very powerful deck in theory. I just think in BT14 we've seen it drop off a little bit, mainly because of the amount of tempo that a lot of the other meta players have. Our main decks this format, such as Fenrir Luga, D-Brigade, even Yellow Vaccine, have the potential to climb and pull off their big combo plays very, very quickly. And for a deck that has a tendency to struggle with consistency, such as BlackWargreymon, that can really just be a death sentence, If you're not able to find your pieces and not establish a presence, BlackWargreymon really can't do a whole lot. And in today's meta, where you're really just turboing up into your top end, that really puts BlackWar on the back foot. In theory, what BlackWar wants to do is very, very good against a lot of these decks, right? Tamer hate, board control, burning through security, being able to redirect and, delete Digimon. It does what the meta would struggle against. The problem is it just doesn't get there fast enough, in my opinion. It really lacks that sort of firepower and tempo to get up into that level 6 big boss monster to really establish that board presence. There are a few pieces that help it out a little bit, but I still think it does lack that end firepower. So, like I said, I'll link the previous deck discussion video in the video description down below, as well as the deck profile photo. And without further ado, let's hop right into this update. Alrighty guys, so starting off with our eggs, we're going to be running 4 of the new Koromon. This guy basically lets you draw a card every time a card leaves your opponent's security, so pretty strong effect. I really think that these guys are pretty equivocal or pretty similar to what the old Koromon, the BT5 Koromon, that basically says if you have a Greymon or Omnimon in name, draw one. In a deck, like I said, that struggles with consistency, you want to make sure that you find every way to draw and cycle through your deck, and this card lets you do that for sure. Moving on to our rookies, we're going to be running 4 of the BT12 Agumon, the one that basically allows you to search your top 4, pick up a Greymon in name or tie Kamiya. Really good in terms of consistency, again, a very key component to this deck, as well as the Inheritable, which is all turns. If your Digimon has Greymon or Omnimon in name, you get plus 1 KDP. So really allows you to, if you are able to get your big body on board, it allows it to just climb up in DP and be like this big wall that your opponent has to overcome. So really, really good sort of duality in that card. We run 4 of the Agumon X Antibody, which allows for additional search and cycle. and also serves as another layer of protection with your Greymon X Inheritable. And then last rookie we're going to run is the new Agumon from BT14. This one basically allows you to, if you have a Tai Kamiya in play, allows you to turbo into a Greymon for free without paying its Digivolution cost, which is really good value. And its heritable is also very, very good. During your turn, if this card has Greymon or Omnimon in name, gain plus 2 KDP. So very similar to the promo Agumon that a lot of us were running for these BlackWargreymon decks. But I think maybe like a updated power crept version of this card, as it gives it that additional like tempo play to Digivolve for free. Moving on to the level 4s, we've got 3 of the Greymon from BT12. Again, just very good for cheating out any ties if you're able to get that off. The inheritable is the same as the Agumon as its partner to just give plus 1 KDP. I like it at a 3 of because you do want to get your ties out early. So if you can cheat out a tie with this Greymon, it does give a lot of good value for that card. Speaking of cheating out ties, we've run 2 of the starter deck Greymon. I still think it's decent. I don't want to run it at a 4 of because I feel like sometimes, you know, you're kind of in a rough spot if you don't have any Agumons in hand, or like there's no ties in trash. There really isn't a reason for tie to be in trash, if I'm gonna be honest with you. But, you know, I just feel like sometimes that effect can whiff and you just lose out on it. The inheritable is okay. You know, if you redirect, you gain a memory. So it does make your opponent think a little bit. But it's really just there for the Greymon Evo, and also they're just in the off chance that it does hit a tie that you can cheat out a tie that way. We're going to be running 4 of the BT9 Greymon X Antibody, and then 1 of the limited Greymon X Antibody from BT11. I like this guy a lot just because he's a lot more consistent to hit for protections purposes. This guy obviously allows you to turbo a lot faster into your top end, which is always good value. But you do need an X antibody underneath the stack in order to give yourself that protection, which is why I do tend to favor this guy a little bit more, because it's a condition for protection that's a little bit easier to hit. And you know for a fact that your opponent's going to try to get rid of your level 6 as much as possible, which is why I do run this guy at a 4 of. In terms of our level 5s, we're going to be running 2 of the Metal Greymon from BT12. Has raid. If you're redirecting, you get to play out a Tai Kamiya with a play cost of 4 or less, or black or red tamer for a play cost of 4 or less. In this deck, it's always going to be a tie, but being able to, again, cheat out your tamers is always really good value for this deck in particular. And then inheritable, giving your stack piercing is also not bad, right? Because if your opponent has that blocker and they choose to block, well, piercing sort of negates that blocker on board. We're going to be running 2 of the BT8 Metal Greymon. This guy is really good, I think, mainly because he does give you the ability to swing into unsuspended Digimon, which, believe it or not, can come up in this meta. And with how often nowadays with the trainings and this guy with the Grey X, you're able to reduce the Digivolution cost. His Digivolution cost of 4 isn't as bad anymore, so it is easier to use and still keep turn. The big problem with this card before, I felt like, was that you would Digivolve into him and end up passing turn, which really just kind of slowed you down a little bit. Now, with how much you're able to reduce the Digivolution cost, I think he's a little bit more viable, because not only do you get to de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, being able to swing into their stack and just have them have to reboot is really, really good. You know, I think this guy gets a little bit more value now with how efficient Digivolution plays can be. And to round out the level 5s, we're going to run 4 of the Metal Greymon X Antibody from BT11. I like this card a little bit more as a control aspect. Being able to negate de-Digivolve and DP reduction is really good against the Yellow Vaccine matchup, really good against decks like Deep Brigade, which like to de-Digivolve your stack a lot. And also the inheritable to just burn security puts your opponent on a timer. You know, BlackWargreymon, we all know, likes to reboot and restand. This being able to just burn a security by doing that and avoid any security bombs that they may be running or whatnot, I think is really, really good value. So I really do like this card in terms of just the way I like to play the deck. I know a lot of people will probably run the BT9 Metal Gray X antibody just purely from an aggression standpoint, and I see that 100%. But again, like the way I like to play, which is a little bit more control-y, a little bit more sort of board control and whatnot, I like this card a lot better. Moving on to the level 6s, we're going to run 2 BlackWargreymon from BT8, 3 BlackWargreymon X, and 1 Gaiomon. The BlackWargreymon from BT8 I think is still really good because tamer interaction is still very important in this meta. I mean, Fenrir Luga, D-Brigade, a lot of these decks rely on their tamers to function. Yellow Vaccine relies on tamer function, so being able to pop tamers is just really, really good value. BlackWargreymon X, I mean, he's the big ultimate baddie of this deck, right? Being able to redirect is really good value, and being able to reboot and restand to proc your Metal Gray X antibody effect is also really, really good value. Again, just putting your opponent on a timer, right? Saying, deal with my big guy, because if you can't, they're going to keep swinging and chipping away, and we're just going to keep burning through security, which is the way I like to play, right? You know, for most Wargrave players, it's a lot about, like, let's just clear security and get rid of it and do, like, a big, like, 4 or 5 check swing. For me, I'd almost rather just, like, chip away and have my Metal Gray burn through security and just kind of suffocate my opponent that way. So I think this card is just really good for that. Gaiomon is a nice way to out a lot of our sort of top end cards, right? Being able to de-digivolve and blitz is really good value. This is a really good way to get rid of Quartz. There's a lot of Quartzmon running around in this meta, as well as, you know, Fenrir Luga. If you de-digivolve it, you can kind of get away with a few things. So being just able to get rid of your opponent's top end is really, really nice, and I think Gaiomon is a huge card for that. Pair that with the BT8 Metal Greymon. I mean, I think Gaiomon is feasting a lot, you know, in this meta. So I think the trifecta of, like, restanding with the Metal Gray X inheritable and having the Metal Greymon, BT8 Metal Greymon inheritable, just to, like, control board, restand, trash security, control board, restand, trash security, I think is really, really powerful, which is why I like that package. And then the last Digimon we're running is going to be the Omnimon X antibody from BT10. Again, it's a really nice finisher. I really don't use it for anything else. You know, it's sort of that, like, late game push to just get rid of security and swing for the last check. We all know the play. It's good for a reason, but, you know, I know some people will choose to run Alter B, which I think is a spicy tech, but I think for consistency's sake, I just like the X antibody a little bit better. In terms of our tamers, we're going to run 1 Yuya and 1 starter deck Tai. Again, you really want to be able to DP climb your boss monster as well. Both cards allow you to do so in some aspect. Yuya gives option immunity, and the starter deck Tai, if you're redirecting, which is sort of the mantra of BlackWargreymon X, you get to buff it up another 2k and draw a card to help you cycle through your deck. So I think Tai does add a lot of value. Yuya just helps prevent that sort of option card that gets rid of your stack right away, right? You almost ensure that your stack will stay on board for at least a turn with Yuya. So that's why I like these two as memory setters, because I think they give pretty good value to the deck. And then lastly, we're running 4 of the Tai Kamiya from BT12 as well. Again, being able to give your stack plus 1 KDP and blocker for the turn is very, very high synergy with this deck. And being able to reduce your Digivolution cost is even more synergy. So I think you have to run this guy at a 4 of. There's just no reason not to. Gonna round it out with our options. We've got 2 Hades Force, because, I mean, Hades is a death sentence for decks like Crossheart, Hunters. You really put them behind with Hades. But even nowadays too, right? Like Hades to wipe out a bunch of TKs for Yellow Vaccine, Hades to wipe out your AGs or your Satskis can be pretty brutal for Fenrir and D-Brigade. So I still think Hades has good value when you can use it properly. We're going to be running 3 of the offense training, again, for search, cycle, and to reduce Digivolution cost. There is a world where I try to run it at a 4 of, but I felt deck space was just a little bit too tight without sacrificing consistency. So I did opt to just run it at a 3 of. because you do want to fit in 2 of the X antibody as well, just for the ability to proc this guy's protection effects, as well as to kind of swing and climb into your top end too. So that does do it for the deck profile. I think it's a pretty standard BlackWargrey list. With the addition of the offense training and the new Agumon, it's pretty much unchanged, if I'm going to be quite honest with you. But like I said, it's still a very, very powerful deck. I just think it just lacks a little bit of tempo is all. But I still think it's a fun deck to play. It's a really, really, like, just control deck, and a very suffocating one at that. So if you're able to get into your top end and get it to stick, I mean, you pretty much have a good win con there. So it's just a matter of getting there. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think of this deck profile. Again, sorry we kind of are missing on the commentary videos this past week, but we should be able to get back to the regular grind next week, so look out for those. Thank you all for tuning in. As again, check out our socials, which will be linked down below, which includes our Twitter, our Instagram, our Discord, as well as our TCG player affiliate. And we'll catch you on the next video. Thank you guys.